But one of the things that I've learned more than anything is that I really don't have any control in this life. So why am I going to continue to try and make things happen? It's almost as if you're swimming against the current. So I just decided there is a current in life, and I have been trying to fight it my entire life, and I'm not going to fight it anymore. So that was the moment. It was just like releasing, letting go, going, I don't have to be in control. I don't have to fix everything. Everything's not resting on Amber to make it better.
Welcome to the Art to Heart podcast. My name is David Moore, and I'm a former corporate sales guy turned poet. And this is where we explore how finding your voice can help your path and your purpose find you. Whether you're currently in a career transition or can't wait to be in one. We learn how leaning into creative expression can be the missing key to transforming your life and the life around you. Has there ever been a time in your life where you got so tired of ruminating on the same thing? Maybe there was a nagging idea or thought in the back of your mind that just never quite allowed you to experience more gratitude instead of criticism, to feel more acknowledgement for yourself instead of blame, or more love instead of cynicism. Have you ever gotten so real with yourself that one day you asked yourself such an honest, mind-opening, thought-provoking, reality-bending, life-changing question? Now, that sounds extreme, but trust me, that is the power of asking the right questions. But it takes a lot of sitting yourself in really difficult times to formulate such a question. That's exactly what happened with today's guest, Amber Jeanseau, who one day reached a boiling point of repeating the same story in her head, and she asked herself such a simple question from such a loving place, and her life would never be the same for it. Amber Jeanseau is a singer-songwriter originally from East Tennessee. She was born into a life of rhythm and rhyme with a love and appreciation for poetry and music. Despite pursuing a career in business and marketing, music remained her safe place for expression. It wasn't until a move to California and a certification in recording engineering that she found herself back in the studio, feeling the most alive she had ever felt. Now, after years of hiding her music out of fear and imposter syndrome, Amber's finally recording her first album and has released 2 singles. Drove Past Your House was released in October 2022, and All at Once Again was released in February 2023. You can find her music on Spotify and all major streaming platforms under Amber Jeanseau. In this episode, Amber and I do a deep dive into the hard questions we've had to ask ourselves and how, as writers, we've been writing our own lessons without even realizing it. From learning to relinquish control and surrender to the current of life, to finding more compassion, love, and understanding for our parents and how they did their best to raise us with the tools they were given. To be quite honest, this episode was just what I needed to listen to myself after returning from a brief break of releasing episodes. I had re-listened to it while I was editing it, and it's everything I needed to know right now. So I wanted to thank Amber again for all the wisdom and love she shares in this episode. And I really hope you enjoy it too. Let's jump in. What's up, y'all? Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today I have a very special guest. She's a friend of mine. We used to work together. We were kind of creative buddies. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is probably stuff that Amber and I have talked to kind of survive at work the last couple of years. But she's very talented. She's got a very big heart, and it's been a joy to be in her life for the last few years. How you doing today, Amber?
I'm doing even better since you said I have a big heart.
You need a daily reminder?
Well, no, it's just sometimes I think I'm too much of a Grinch and people forget in the day to day because I have to be so structured and do so many, like directive type things that people forget that I'm a big old softie. I'm a huge softie.
You're a softie, and You can be like a child at times, childlike at times.
I can, I can be childlike and like a child.
Well,
Both.
there'd be
Both sides
times
of that coin.
at the office you'd bust out a baby voice.
What was that? What was that? Strawberry.
I don't know.
You like strawberry?
Something like that. Amber has recently been working on her own project. She's got a track coming out soon. I'll let her talk about that more. But something that was really fascinating and some info that Amber sent to me was a story about the first poem, one of the first poems she wrote in school. And I'm not going to murder the story, so I'll let her take over.
I hope I don't murder the story. I mean, it's been a long time ago, but yeah. So my earliest memory of writing a poem was, I don't know, first, second grade. And it was a poem to my mom, and it was Valentine's Day. And it was really cheesy. Roses are red, violets are blue, or maybe I changed it. I don't know. But the first like empowering moment that I felt from writing poetry was, I think, I don't know if I was in sixth grade, somewhere there, junior high. And one of the local weather meteorologists, weather people came to our school, and I'm not sure why, it doesn't really matter. But he came and we had an assembly, and, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade went, and we were all together. And towards the end, he was like, so I'm going to invite you all to write a poem about the weather, and then your teachers will send them in to the news station, and we'll go through them, and the best ones will be read on air. And so, I'm like, yes, I'm going to get mine on air. And so I go and I write my poem, I turn it in, and my parents and I watch the news, and lo and behold, there's my poem. And it was like I said, it was empowering, because what I did was I rhymed something like, so his name was John Gerard. And so I rhymed his name with something like leaves falling in the yard, or woke up to snow in my yard, or something like that. But I used his name, and it was like, hey, people like hearing their names. So if that's what got my poem on the air, I'm sure of it.
Wow. So you were published in sixth grade?
Yeah.
Is that published? I don't know. But that's incredible.
But it'd be fun to see if I could go back and find that old clip, like go to the news station and ask them if they can find that old clip.
Yeah, we'll send this episode to Mr. Gerard.
Absolutely. Is he still alive? No, he is.
He is? Okay. And when I was listening to you tell that story, it dawned on me, we're probably not the only writers who ended up in sales because of that.
Probably not. You made me think about it. Sales and marketing go hand in hand, and marketing is like words and playing to people's egos, and that whole psychology of it.
Yeah, we become copywriters just on a day-to-day basis, is how I've kind of gathered it. And what's funny is that how when I finally started to write as my own craft, that obsession poured into the emails I would write at work. And it would sometimes take me like 30 or 45 minutes to craft an email to get the right word right. And now what?
You're trying to rhyme in your emails? What?
No, I'm not trying to rhyme. I'm just trying to convey the right message. Because, there would be some conflicts that needed some pretty direct and clear communication where we used to work. And which any jobs, that's important. But I remember specifically there would be people we worked with come and tell me, like, that was a great email. Like, you said everything you needed to say.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I've noticed in the last year, a lot of the emails I write at work, they look like poems. Like, there's line breaks, there's little stanzas, and I can't not do it. So every time after I finish writing, I have to go back and take out all these line breaks so it doesn't look so fucking weird.
Your boss is like, why does David always write in haiku?
Just give myself a sonnet assignment for every email.
He comes to you, David, we printed all of your emails and we published a book for you.
Oh, man.
No, it's
Email.
true.
That
Like
would be a good. That would be a good thing, actually. Email poems, corporate poems. Just kidding. I'm not
yeah, let's do it.
gonna. Anyways, what were you saying?
No, it's true that when you're a writer, um, because I think writing comes from a place of being observant, introspective, um, just and curious. I mean, look at you. You've got this podcast because you're curious to learn about other artists. So
Mm.
I think that when you're a writer, you have all those things going on. And I would venture to say that most writers are um, self-loathing and perfectionists. And so it translates into email writing. My current uh, boss basically told me, you could save some time and just send us bullet points when you have meetings and you want to give us a recap.
In your new job?
I'm like writing these emails that are like, like the beginning of Star Wars. Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
it's
yeah.
like
For the bio, I asked you to send me. You put in the subject like, "Oops, this is now a
yeah,
memoir." Sorry
my
about that.
memoirs. That's the thing. It's like it's so hard for me to sit down and start writing something because I get all in my head. But I'm like, my mom always calls me a procrastinator. She's like, you wait till the last minute. I'm like, I do not. Everything is already being done up here. It's just the putting it down on paper or the physical product from this that you see last minute. It's not. I'm not a
Mm.
procrastinator,
You're just not an
really,
editor.
kind of. I can edit other people's stuff, like big time, big time.
Yeah.
But I try to be nice.
Um. So I know I kind of moved the conversation forward, but I wanted to ask more about, um, as a kid, how did that change your outlook on life when you learned as a 6 or 7 year old, hey, I can please people with words by like just appealing to their ego? And did you conceptualize it that way as a kid? Or in retrospect, you're like, oh yeah, that was ego.
Yeah, I think it's retrospect to be able to verbalize it the way that I've verbalized it now. But I do think that I realized then the power. I mean, I used the guy's name on purpose. I
Mm.
knew at that time if I use his name, he will read my poem on air. I did know that. I knew that for sure. Um,
Was that like a gut instinct feeling, or was that you in your note, like you knew and understood people at that point?
good question. I think it wasn't gut instinct. I think it was, so I'm an only child. I spent a lot of time around adults.
Mm.
And I also moved around a lot. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. My dad wasn't in the military or anything like that, but I went to 6 different elementary schools. So it's
Oh.
always the new kid, always coming into a situation. So like I am a surveyor. I walk into a situation, I survey. I figure out. It's kind of like I figure out who's the popular kid, who's the dork, who's the kid that they all make fun of until I came into the room. So I've kind of been just always watching people and observing and just picking up on stuff. And I had a friend, coworker friend, slash, tell me once, she's like, you're like this huge fishing net dragging life and just scooping up everything. And then later you go through and you go, okay, I don't need that. I don't need that. So, I
Kind of like how
think I
you,
just,
similar to how you said how you write, you keep it all in, and then at the end, you'll just kind of see what you want and what you don't.
yeah. So I think that it was just knowledge from observing people and picking up on human behavior and human nature.
Do you consider yourself to be an empath or sensitive with
Um,
energies and people's emotions?
yeah, but I would say that I think I used to be more of an empath, and through the years, I realized how self-damaging that can be because it can take you to some really dark places when you
Mm-hmm.
when you pull in people's energy and you hold on to it, and when you think that you can be the one to fix it. So that, yeah, it's really hard. um One, to be an empath and to feel that and to take it all in, and then two, it's hard to kind of cut that cord. And it's not that you're not an empath anymore. You just learn to shut the door on it sometimes and be in control of it so that it's self-preservation.
How did you learn to do that?
Um,
And when did you become aware that it was other people's baggage you were carrying around?
Today? No. No. I would say during the pandemic.
Wow.
When we all got shut in our homes and, I was working, but also there was times during the day where just almost because, I used to travel so much. I was always on the go. I was doing my master's program,
Traveling for work.
traveling for work 50% of the time, doing my master's program online. So I was just always on the go. So at that time, I think I was already kind of escaping from that empath mentality by putting so much energy into myself and my work and my master's program. So that when the pandemic hit, we were working from home, or I was working from home full time. There would be times where I was like, I don't even know what to do with all this free time because I've completed my master's program that year as well in March or April.
That was at
There was
USC,
days,
right?
yeah. There was days that I would just bawl. It's like everything that I had been doing for maybe the past decade or something. I don't know how many years was going on or whatever, but there were days that I would just bawl, just cry my eyes out because now I had all this time for the rush of everything to catch up with me. And for me, it was that drag, that big fishing net. And now I was getting to take all of it out. And so it was a very emotional time for me. I'm gonna plug Marco Polo app. It was a great thing. My friend said to me, we would send each other multiple Marco Polos a day, like just rambling. We've been friends for over 20 years and
Wow.
we're very similar. I always say we've had very parallel lives and we were just like vomiting our emotions during that time. And I went through a lot of stuff here in this office by myself and on those Marco Polo therapy chats. But I think that's really when I realized, man, I got to shut it down. I'm not being compassionate. I'm sucking in everybody else's emotions, not dealing with my own. And now I'm starting to get bitter and angry and really burdened. And I can't be the most effective me that I should be as a person in the world who should be kind and compassionate. And like you said, I have a big heart, but my heart was like withered from all of that empath crap.
Did you
Empath fuckery.
empath bullshit? Were you actively running away from like the last 10 years? Like, were you actively escaping, or did a part of you know that there was stuff you had to deal with that you were maybe trying to stay too busy to have time for?
I think I was actively running since who knows when. A long time. Yeah. Yeah, for a really long time. Just moving around, not always staying busy with things in my life. I would more stay busy with trying to please others. I was a huge people pleaser. Not that I don't want people to be happy with me or, do something that pleases them and makes them happy or whatever. But now it's like, it's the motive. All of it is a shift in the motive. And I think a lot of it came from insecurities for sure. And so that whole figuring out that words were power was it was kind of a place of insecurity. Like now I have a superpower. I can use this, but I still wrote and approached it very selfishly and with insecurity.
How did your relationship to writing evolve throughout that time that you were escaping? And then like, how did it change when COVID hit and then you learned and had all of the self-discovery?
I think that I've always gone in and out of writing. there's times where I would not stop, but it would just not be a focus. It would kind of go
Fair.
on the back burner. If some lines came to me, I might type them in an email to myself. I have a folder in one of my emails where I just, whatever, and it's for years. It might be 3 lines. It might be, for me, it's a chorus, or maybe it's like verse 1 of a song that I'll write 10 years from now. Um, or it's a notebook, whatever. I'm constantly, I'll even just put down like 3 or 4 words or something like that. But I was in and out. I think since I moved to California, I was kind of in and out until I did a recording engineering certification program at Long Beach City College. So I kind of delved back into writing as it pertains to music. Um, and it's always been usually about a broken heart, a broken relationship, somebody hurt my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good about writing about people hurting my feelings and that self-loathing thing, like, well, it must have been my fault, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just another sad love song, Tony Braxton. Hopefully people know that reference, Tony Braxton. Anyway, so in and out, and especially going back to school, I really didn't write. So it was all kind of
You wrote, just not
just,
songs or
yeah.
poems.
Yeah, I wrote for sure. Lots of research papers. So that satisfied the writer in me. It really did,
Wow.
because I like to research.
It was
So there
challenging.
again, it was that observer in me researching and then writing about whatever I had observed or gained from reading and studying and all of that. So that was satisfying some of it. But then, yeah, when the pandemic hit and everything was so weird, it just kind of started to reemerge, because here were all those feelings that I'd stuffed down and not dealt with. And we won't go into childhood therapy crap, but a lot of it stemmed from my childhood relationship with parents and things like that. And it also, I think, was just the need to be creative again. Um, Music has always been a part of my life. I told you, I grew up in a family of dancers. My grandfather was a ballet dancer. My grandmother, they met. She started taking ballet I don't know, to impress him. I don't know. But anyway, they had dance studios. I started at age
Didn't you
two
say
and a
you were
half.
looking for his outfit or a picture or something like that? You sent me.
Perhaps I have pictures of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, some really cool pictures. There was a photographer in Chicago. That's where my grandparents met. His name was Maurice Seymour, and he photographed a lot of people in vaudeville. So he photographed Bob Hope and then some other like 1930s, 40s type actors, actresses, singers, things like that, dancers. And I actually found his son online a few years back and said, "Hey, is your dad still around?" Or probably not. Do you know if there's any negatives of these pictures? And he told me his father's warehouse, where all the negatives were stored, burned in a Chicago fire.
Oh, fuck.
But it was a really cool connection he and I made, and I've got some really great pictures of my grandfather. But music was just always in my life. I'm pretty sure that my mom said, when after I was born, she would go and take classes from my dad at the dance studio. So they put my playpen in the corner, and I would just be, listening to the music and trying to dance. So I always say that like rhythm was my first love. I love percussion. I love rhythm. I think that's why I really liked poetry, because there was a rhythm to it. There's a rhythm to rhyming and understanding a stanza and the layout of a poem. And then when you read it, like you just feel that groove of poetry. It doesn't even need music.
I don't remember having a big fascination with rhythm or music. I loved listening to it, but I definitely remember always having almost an obsession with like counting syllables
Really?
in my head. Yeah. Whether I would learn a new word or if I was saying a sentence in my head, I would always say it a bunch of times to make sure I had the syllable count right or something. And that never
Right.
told me anything. That like no indication to me that I might be a writer.
It's weird. No.
Um,
Do you have a favorite word?
no, not that I know of.
Huh.
Do you?
I don't know. Onomatopoeia comes to mind.
No, I don't think I have a favorite word. I don't know, maybe chrysalis, just cosmetic, like, or aesthetically. I
Yeah.
just, it's a different spelling, it's a different flow of the word. Just, I don't even if I didn't know what it meant, I would really like that word. Um, have you noticed since you've been writing much longer? I'm interested to see your experience. But have you gone back to read any of your writing and realized that your writing was trying to teach you something in that moment?
Absolutely. That's what I think. That's what I think every poem or every song was a future lesson for me to learn
Mm,
once I went back to it and read again. And the funny thing is that, like I said, a lot of my poetry. So there was a time when I was really super angry, like, angry 20s or something, but I could never write anything angry. I could never put it down to paper. I could not like rage in my writing unless like, I don't know, I got drunk or something. Maybe I could, but it was always more just really sad stuff. And so I would go back and read it and I would think, man, the theme sure does keep repeating itself
mm.
over and over and
What was
over
the
and over
theme?
and over. Sadness,
Just sadness
just
and
pain.
heartbreak.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Just pain, just pain.
just pain. Just pain.
Just
No
suffering
big
and
deal.
agony and hating life.
Emotional devastation.
Oh man.
What is your writing about? I mean, come on. Isn't it pain and
A lot of
agony?
it is hard. At first, it was a lot of sadness and heartbreak, just because that's what I was going through when I discovered um, my fit for writing. But lately, it's the most lessons my poems have taught me has been spiritual lessons and spiritual beliefs and the ways of the world. Um, yeah, like that's I. We don't have to go there all the way, but one of my earlier poems that I wrote was trying to teach me about soul contracts.
About what? Did you say soul contracts?
Yeah.
Like with the
So
devil or
contracts. No, the idea of a soul contract is the idea that before we come into this life, um we we plan out our life. We plan out who our parents are. We plan what our struggles are going to be. We plan
no, I didn't.
we plan with other people. Um so the same way you have very good friends here, you would have those same very good friends in the soul realm. And you chat before lives. You're like, hey, how are we going to help each other in this life? We're going to be friends. We're going to be cousins. We're going to be enemies. And so the point of all this is that we come here to learn something that we haven't learned yet. And so for me, that makes sense as artists because we're very curious and we always want to learn something. Um, and as an empath as well. But, and so I don't even know if that's like, no, we'll never know what is true until we get there. But that concept, it's brought me a tremendous amount of peace. And so peace and understanding and grace. And so for that alone, it's worth it. That's more than religion ever gave me. So I'll take it. But anyways, so that's an idea. Like I didn't realize it until over a year later when I went back to read it. I was like, oh damn, like I was writing about this and I didn't even fully understand that even concept. And so that's when I had a much bigger appreciation for what poetry is and can be.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, just like we already said, but our poems are lessons for us. And so, I mean, even if you're not a poet, if somebody's just journaling. Who was it? Somebody told me the other day that they just started journaling and we were talking about something and she's like, oh my gosh, I should go. Oh, I was talking about emotional needs. It was my massage therapist. She was like, you seem so happy, like you're so different, even like your skin is glowing, even like just not just your face, like your whole body, like you just seem so different. And I'm like, isn't it funny how, things can change in your whole body when you find happiness and you change your outlook. But she was saying, I just started journaling and we were talking about emotional needs. And I said, I think I've started to learn what my emotional needs are. What are my emotional needs, not the emotional baggage needs that I picked up as a kid. What is Amber's emotional needs? And I said, and it's not always just about love and partners and dating and all that. It's about friendship. It's about, it's about compassion. Like I said, sometimes I forget to be compassionate. I've been thinking about how everybody comes into this world with a gift. I think everybody has a gift. I think mine is writing. I think it's lyrics, it's music, and I want to share that because I know that something that I'm going to write about with an experience of mine is going to touch somebody. They're going to relate. They're going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, I'm not alone. I think some people are compassionate. I'm not. I am, but that's not like my natural state of being. I have to remind myself. Um, but I was saying also, like our emotional needs just come in so many different places. And, we've talked about CASA and that organization program. And that I think is one of my needs that I'm fulfilling. Like I don't
Mm.
have kids. I'm not going to have kids, but there are a bunch of kids in the system, in the foster care system that need somebody. And I'm like, I have a longing to give something to people who are younger than me because I've lived kind of a sordid past and a sordid life. And I think that I can share, like I said, some people look at me, you mentioned I went to USC and some people call that university for spoiled children. I was anything but. I busted my. To get there. Everywhere that I'm at now is, I haven't done it alone. I've had people help me, but I've clawed my way to the
Yeah.
place where I'm at. And so I want to share that with people. But back to the story, I told her, your emotional needs aren't just about you and your boyfriend. And she said, oh, I need to journal that. And hopefully she goes back later, and reads that, whatever she's journaling right now, and says, oh, wow, I'm not in that same place anymore. And I learned through writing it down and journaling. It's almost like we're writing our own lesson. We don't even realize it, but we're
Yeah.
writing our own lessons in life because, as you said, we're here to learn something.
I think one of my biggest breakthroughs when I started journaling regularly was um, I remember writing specifically in my journal, I'm so fucking tired of writing about this. I'm so tired of writing about this. And I was like,
Yeah.
then why do I keep writing about it? Why do I keep thinking about it? I don't have to write about it, And so that was a big shift in agency for me as well. I was like a slave to my feelings and emotions and memories or whatever. Um, I had a question I wanted to ask you while you were talking about that. I want to talk more about CASA, but when you said that you were recognizing that Amber has needs she needed to be met. Do you think you knew what your needs were, but you were denying them to yourself? Or was it you never took the time to consider what you needed?
I think probably a little bit of both. I think I think when you're an empath, I think when you're a people pleaser, you do deny yourself a lot of things. And I'm going to go to the saying that a lot of people say, and I've been saying it for a couple of decades. If you're in an airplane and there's an emergency and the oxygen masks come down, put it on yourself first before helping others, because if you pass out, you're not going to be any good to anybody. Well, I was not putting my oxygen mask on at all, even though I knew that's what I needed to do. So,
Mm,
yes, in some regards, I knew that I wasn't taking care of my needs, but I don't think that I knew exactly what they were. I couldn't identify them.
mm,
I don't know if it was because I was so broken, so upset with certain things. I was so focused on, I'll tell you what I was focused on. I was focused on the shit I didn't get when I was a kid. And I'm not talking about stuff like toys. I'm talking about like, oh, my
emotional
mom didn't
needs.
do this, my dad didn't do that. Um, and does stay with you. It's not to be discounted at all, but also those things make us. So I know that I think you have a podcast with somebody where you talk about the things that happen that you can use to your benefit. I don't remember what the name of it was. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
You
it was
sent me.
about the in between, embracing
No,
the in between. No,
no, what was it? Sorry.
one of my own episodes.
Yeah, like trauma, like using childhood
Oh,
trauma.
trauma. Yes, with Soul on Fire, Mauricio. How we inherit trauma as well as gifts,
I don't know about
and how it's
inheriting it, but
something.
yeah.
So it's something you use and then give back. I
Okay.
think his line is, "It's something borrowed, something that must be returned."
Well, I've been returning my trauma for sure. So I'm like, this doesn't fit anymore. Okay. And it's true. Like
Well,
we do,
that's the point. Yeah, that's what we have to do.
we walk around, we do inherit trauma. Like our parents bring trauma into their marriages and then they pass it on to us as kids. It's there. Um, but yeah, I was so focused on that stuff that I wasn't looking at what I did get. I had
Mm,
sushi with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and she has a very similar relationship. And I'm not saying my relationship with my mom's bad. Please don't. I don't want to give the wrong idea. It's so much better now. Like
mm,
I'm going on vacation with her next
yeah.
week. No, I'm not even Catholic, but
If you're listening,
no.
she just did a cross on her chest.
um, yeah. So she was saying my mom didn't hug us. But damn it, if we didn't have the cleanest house on the block, a home cooked meal every night, we all sat around the table together. Our clothes were always clean. So apparently there were some kids in her school that didn't have clean clothes. She was
Mm,
telling me all the things that she now recognizes as an adult that her mom did do. And I think that's where I had to get was stop focusing on what I didn't get and focus on the things that I did get. Focus on the positive. Be grateful. Be grateful I had a roof over my head. I had food on my
mm-hmm.
stomach. I had clothes on my body. Um, those things. And then when you stop focusing on what you didn't get, it just kind of changes your whole life. It changes. You start realizing, okay, what do I need now? Now that I've stopped worrying about 20 years ago or 30 or however old you are, what do I need now?
What was there a moment where you can think back and like that is when it kind of changed? What I know is I think it's a lot of what we talked about with COVID and you just having the time and space to be with yourself. But what was it that helped you to stop? Um, yeah, how you just said how it's just like, well, I'm leaving that behind. What event helped you do that? Because I think that's the hardest part for so many people.
Um, it's a culmination of things, but if I were to say that there was one moment where I just went with all the baggage, I would say that it was maybe late in 2020 or early in 2021. And so for me, I'll just tell you this really quick as a backdrop to what I'm going to say. I grew up in a Christian home, believing in Jesus, and then at a certain age was like, I'm done with that. It doesn't serve me,
Mm-hmm.
and I became agnostic. But also during the pandemic, not only did I have time to deal with my own emotions, but I was like, let me start looking at this thing. And I didn't look at it as religion; I looked at it as a relationship. And I told people, I'm not saying I know for sure anything. I just know that I find more peace in my belief in God and in Jesus. There was a moment in 2020, late or early 2021. I was trying to help my parents find a small house um, and helping them. So they had some health issues back in 2019, and they've been living in a house that I own, and it could have damaged our relationship even worse, but I think that whole thing has kind of brought us together a little bit
Mm,
more. We've had to rely and be more interdependent, not codependent. But there was a moment where I'm trying to make everything work, whatever everything is, but part of it was helping them find a house and helping them with the down payment. And again, it was just because they had some really bad medical issues and it was very unexpected and hospital bills and all that stuff. So I'm trying to make it all happen. And one day I just sat down. I have a little chair out in the hallway outside of my office. And I just sat down and I literally physically threw my hands up and I said, God, I can't do it.
Mm.
I, the Bible says, cast your cares on him. I'm going to try that. I'm really going to try that. And a lot of times I think people who believe in Jesus or believe in God say, I'm going to give you my stuff. They take it right back because we like to be in control. But one of the things that I've learned more than anything is that I really don't have any control in this life. So why am I going to continue to try and make things happen? It's almost as if you're swimming against the current. So I just decided there is a current in life, and I have been trying to fight it my entire life, and I'm not going to fight it anymore. So that was the moment, was just like releasing, letting go, going, I don't have to be in control. I don't have to fix everything. Everything's not resting on Amber to make it better.
You just fully surrendered and just accepted.
I did.
And man. And yeah, and I don't think there is any one moment that happens for people. It is a culmination. I heard a quote recently that I really like. There is no such thing as rock bottom. Rock bottom is just whenever you've had enough. It's whenever you've decided you've had enough. And so,
Yeah.
And that goes the same for that. Like, I'm tired of all of this. You just found some inner peace.
When you said that you kept writing the same thing over and over, you asked yourself, why am I doing this? I had a similar moment, but it wasn't necessarily about writing. It was pre-pandemic. So that's where everything that I went through during the pandemic happened. It was crying on my way to work. I don't know why. Not that I didn't like my job or anything. Crying on the way to work, crying during my lunch. I would go sit in my car, cry, and cry on the way home. And it was that was one of those moments too, a defining moment where I audibly asked myself in my car, why are you not happy? It was one of the most powerful questions I could have asked myself. And I sat with it for a while. And then driving in the car again, crying on my way to work, I realized I was afraid to let myself be happy. But it was that same thing where I was like, I am tired of this. I am tired of not being happy. I don't want to write about this anymore.
Yeah. Was it what was there an event or something you witnessed or saw that was like, I want that? And it's like, I don't want this anymore.
My girlfriend, who is so annoyingly happy all the time. Not that she's always happy. She just says, I'm going to be happy no matter what, because you can't control anything. So she used to ask me all the time. It used to kill me. She'd be like, you happy? Would make me so mad. David, it would make me so angry that she would ask me if I'm happy. It shouldn't make a person angry when somebody says, are you happy? That's exactly right. I'm not happy. No, leave me alone. Stop asking me that. And it's almost like she wore me down to the point where I had to say, why are you not happy? So it was really
like brick by brick, she tore that wall down until you're like, wait, why?
Man, I'm telling you, she is the most irritating person that I love so much. It really came from that. Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful. It is. We're just damn that every day. I wanted to make sure we talked about CASA. I'm aware of CASA. I did some work with them, but can you explain what that is and what led you to fill that need? What need are you filling? Obviously, it's of service, but yeah, let's just dive into that.
So I'm not even quite sure when I learned about CASA. But I'll back up just a little bit. I started volunteering for a foundation here in Orange County called Teen Leadership Foundation. And what they do is they help teens who have aged out of the foster care system, help them get established. So TLF has, I think they have 3 houses now, maybe 4. So
Mhm.
basically, their foundation goes and they'll purchase a house, one that's probably in need of repair. Volunteers go in, they, repaint, just freshen up the place. And then typically, I don't know, 4 to 5 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, whatever, who have aged out of the system apply to live there. And so, a lot of these kids they don't have a driver's license
Mm.
because when you're a foster child, I guess, foster parents aren't like, yeah, let me teach you how to drive. I'm not saying this of all. I'm not saying this of all, but
Yeah.
I know there's a tendency for some foster parents to be in it for the paycheck,
I was right about
and,
to say that. A lot
and
of them are just
yeah,
trying to get the money per head.
well, not much of it goes to the child and the well-being of the child. So TLS helps them with getting their driver's license, helps them getting a job. They don't say go get a job here. They're just like if you need help filling out your application, we will give you the resources that you need. Um, just helping. Some of the girls, they end up on the streets and they get pregnant. Some of them end up on the streets and they are on drugs. So this is just a resource for ex foster teens and young adults. So I got involved in that, and the reason why I did, there was just a tugging at my heart when I learned about it. Again, don't remember where I learned about it. It just came into my life, and I just grabbed onto it. My
Where
mom
were
was
you? Where were you in your life to when you heard the whisper, when the tug? Like, where were you mentally or emotionally? Like, were you relatively happy? Was that before the happy or after the happy? Before the
Oh,
happy or
it
after the
was
happy?
after. Yeah. So
Okay.
it was it, gosh, did it happen? The past few years is such a blur. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I'd have to go back and look at emails from when I first started
Mm. Well, yeah.
chatting
Just
with the program director.
the point I wanted to just tweeze out of that was, you need to have some kind of a little bit of peace to be able to have the time to listen to those things that come to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But I've also always wanted to be involved with kids somehow.
Mhm.
A long time ago, I used to work with like the children's church at my church. Like
Mhm.
even as a teenager, an older teen, I did puppets on Sunday mornings with the young kids and stuff like that. And again, it goes back to that. What did I not get as a kid? What are other kids not getting? How can I be somebody that spreads a little love and a little light? And it's hard when you don't have the love and the light in your
Mm.
life.
Yeah.
So that's one of those places where you're like, I don't have it to give, and here I am trying to give it. So I failed a lot of times in some of my volunteer efforts, but I think it was after 2019. I think it
Okay.
was after that whole conversation with myself, and I think it ended up being 2021, maybe kind of when things died down a little bit. Um,
So how did PLF turn into CASA, the court-appointed special advocates? And sorry, you can finish off however you were there. I know I
yeah,
interrupted
no,
you.
I don't remember how I found CASA, but it just kind of came. There it was. And the backstory to all of that too is that my mom was in foster care.
Mm.
She never met her dad. Her parents split up when she was born, basically. And then her mom died when she was 12. So she went to go stay with some family, but my mom was 12. She was like she was wild. Let's just call it as it is. She was wild and
Damn.
she was hard to handle. And so family was just like, we're just gonna just let the state take care of her. And she ended up in some school in
Damn, her
Nashville
family
called.
said we'll let the state take care of her.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the basic gist. I think the person that was trying to take care of her Um, I hope my mom never sees this and goes, "Why are you talking about my life?" I think, to be honest with
Hi,
you,
Miss
I will
Jeanseau.
tell you what I think. What I think really happened was the person who was caring for my mom. I think her husband was not good,
Mm,
and there was a situation there. And so maybe that caretaker thought, if I get her out of the house, it will protect her. But a lot of things go on in the foster care system and
yeah.
state care. And my mom went through that. Um, so, so I think about that. I think about the stories that my mom shared with me. And,
Mm,
it explains a lot as to why I didn't get certain things as a kid. So there's this moment young, very early on, where I became protective of my mom, like my mom's hurting. And so that's where the whole people pleasing, picking up other people's baggage, let me fix it kind of thing. And maybe that's one of those, like say, everybody's born with some sort of gift. Maybe that
mhm.
was one of the gifts I was born with. And I'm like, I want to give that one back.
That's funny.
um, but yeah, so the whole drive and attraction to the foster care system and the kids that are in that system, whether it be CASA or any other organization, I think stem from that my mom, that
Mm,
childhood thing that she went through. And it again was just one of those things that was coming out of me that I didn't even know at the time. Didn't put two and two together until I told my mom one day, I'm going to volunteer and go paint walls at this house for foster care kids.
mm. Um, is this when you this whole like self-discovery journey of yours, is that when did you find like compassion for your mom for and
I'm
like
still working on it.
you're still
I
working?
am. Yeah. And some days it's really hard. Um, I think in a lot of ways, when somebody loses a parent, it's almost like time stops. I'm
Mm,
grateful that right now to this point, I haven't lost a parent to death. My parents and I have had, times where we don't speak for a while. We've gone through certain things, but they are both still alive. Um, but as I've seen my friends lose parents, they explain how if both parents are now passed away, they feel like orphans. They feel like they're just drifting out in space because something that kept them tethered to life is now missing. And so I
mm,
think, I go and I look at that point of view for a 12-year-old and think how horrible that must be. But when you think about how time stops or you become untethered, um, in a lot of ways, I think my mom stayed 12 for a long
yeah.
time because she didn't have, like, she had to grow up fast and learn certain things, like become street smart, but other things didn't develop for a long time. So I think that I had to be a parent for her some. And so I was very angry about that, when I got older and began rebelling and was like, screw you, I'm out of here, done being your mom.
That was like when you left the church, right?
Well, I was kind of in and out of the
Mm,
church from like 19 to, I don't know, 19 to now. No, for about 5 years in my later teens and mid 20s. I think I was in and out. I would come back in, I would hang out for a little bit. In fact, at one point, I went on a mission trip to Russia and China with my church. And
mm.
I was, how old was I? 23. So
Oh
I
wow.
went back and I was like, okay, like, I've always wanted to be a missionary. I'm going to go back to church and, do this whole thing again. But yeah, the whole compassion thing, to me, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think any emotional thing or just our lessons in life. I had written something down earlier, um, that the lovely thing about life is that we don't ever know everything until the rush of all of our memories flood our mind as we take our last breath.
Mm. Damn.
So you can ask me in 20 years about my compassion, and I'll tell you I'm still working on it.
Yeah. I can ask you in the next life, how's your compassion? You're still working on it. I know you don't believe in that anyways.
I believe in something, some sort of
Yeah,
afterlife. I just don't know what it is.
exactly. Exactly. Um, yeah, I would say I'm still very much in the beginning and thick of trying to find compassion for my dad for a lot of the same reasons. Um, his biological father wasn't around, but he was like in the same town, so he would see him and like they knew each other, but it was very like, yeah, he's
Oh,
not in my life. And but my dad and his siblings, my aunt and uncles, they all had who I grew up through my grandpa. He adopted everyone. He married my grandma and adopted everyone. But I think he was still a man of few words, and my dad had a lot of affection and love for him. But I'm sure it'll never feel the same as when the person who gave you that life rejected it. And
I
so
think, yeah.
and so growing up, um, my dad was always at these events. He would always go to our school or he coached us for soccer. But I didn't realize until now he was never there emotionally. He was a very emotionally absent, still is, and a very emotionally absent father. And I think he's trying to change that, which I'm very grateful for. But it clicked with me because, like, damn, like in his mind, he literally thought his presence was all that was needed because he never got that. And so in my head, it's like he did the bare minimum, and not bare minimum. Like I know a lot of dads don't do the stuff he did, but it was like, wow, like, so that was just a lot of understanding it took for me to see where he's coming from. And in some ways, I think that's just a double-edged sword because when you rationalize, like, yeah, they just need my presence, like that will feed into your ego as well, undoubtedly.
Well,
But
I think there's a way to look at this from their point of view. And I say there because I'm talking about my mom too. And I'm going to use the word abandoned
mm,
because, you know, that's exactly what happens. I mean, your dad saw his dad, but the guy was not a dad.
yeah,
He didn't go to his soccer games, and I'm not
hmm
trying to excuse anything that your dad didn't do or anything my mom didn't do or anything. We hope. We hope. Not everybody is. I'm not going to say we. Let's not say we as collective. There's some people who aren't, and I can name names. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but I had a therapist one time who said, and this was very, um, he said, Amber, you think that your mom was withholding something from you, but the truth is she didn't have it to give to you.
cool.
Yeah, sit on that one for a minute, David.
Oh, damn.
So
Your
your
therapist should be a
dad,
poet.
yeah. So your dad, again, I know, and like you said, he's trying to do things better now. Your dad had a toolbox and the tools that he was supposed to get from somebody else, he didn't get them,
Hmm
So his toolbox was probably not very full. Whereas now maybe he's got a couple more tools in there and hopefully he gets a few more. Like, I think that we should never stop learning in life, so that we can keep putting tools in our toolbox. And then we can pass those tools down to the generation
hmm
after us, you know?
Yeah. And I think sometimes maybe the hurt's so bad there isn't any learning going on. And
True.
I mean, even with ourselves, with myself for sure.
The lesson is being written, though.
It is being written. It is literally being written. I had a really cool so when I was working on that chat book earlier in the year, the one that you had read
Mhm.
for me and it gave me feedback on, but I did not win the competition for it, but it's okay because
That's okay.
that was a lot of fun. But I had at that point I had printed out all of the poems I had written and then I would like go and then like add or have new poems come from it. And I had so many of those that I had just never looked at again. Like I knew I had a stack of papers I needed to go transcribe and finish editing on my computer. And I went through those the other day. I had some nuggets in there. And I was like, whoa, like this wasn't speaking to me at the time. Like I had one, it's been stuck in my head since I saw it and I posted it on my story. But it resonated with me a lot today. And it was I don't I don't need the answers. It's towards the questions I'll run. Questions are the answers if you know where they're from. And I was like,
Why are you
wow.
not? Yeah. I mean, but, and then, yeah, I really get that. Like going back to that, me asking myself, why are you not happy? It was the question. It wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
answer. It was that I was not asking myself the question.
From that place of
And
love. Yeah. Whew. Um, do you have anything you want to share? Anything like any verses from a song or something you want to,
hmm, you
or a
know,
poem, or you don't have to. It's fine. I'm putting you on the spot.
I think what I would share, and I mean, I could look, I've got stuff right behind me, but what I would share is that, through this past 8 months of going back into the recording studio and working on music and going back to a song that's 10 years old and saying, whatever I thought it was then, it's grown up now and it's something completely different. So the idea that I had to record it previously, and I have it recorded, it was just like a very rough take. It is such a grown up song now. So I was able to take something that was older and it was a lesson that I was writing. I just wasn't ready for the lesson. Now that lesson has grown up and it's just like really, it's one of my favorite songs now I will release it in, I think January, February. It's just so big and so wonderful that I took it from this really like dead place that I wrote it in where I couldn't even give it the creativity and the artistry that it deserved. Now it's like it's just something I can't wait for people to hear it because I'm so proud of it because I was able to write it from a place of being healed from that hurt. Or not write it, but now bring it to existence where I can put it out there and people can listen to it. It's a full song. It's not just a rough cut or whatever.
Is this
And
the single
then
coming out next month? It's in
no,
October. No.
no, it's the one coming out in 2023. The one that's coming out next month is actually the happiest song I've ever written. And I wrote it from my girlfriend's perspective. When my
Oh,
girlfriend was pursuing me, and it
wow.
was just a different take on a love song. And it's almost like I was able to write that because I believed that somebody loved me now,
I was
that
about to say that, yeah.
I was the one that was always pursuing other people. And, you know, she's a chef and she cooks for me. And that's her poetry. But for me to try and understand her a little bit better, I had to write a song, because that's my language is
Yeah, yeah.
lyrics and poetry and music. So I wrote it from her perspective and it was just little lines of things like that we said. So like one of the chorus is, did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that you would ever be here with me? She actually said that to me one night. We're just laying in bed, just she likes to talk a lot. Like I'm trying to go to sleep. I'm like, okay, quiet. Lights are out. No more talking. She's like, did you read such and such today? And it's like very explosive. Like I'm like almost asleep. Oh, by the way, did I tell you? Well, one night she was just like, did you ever think in your wildest dreams that you would be with me? Because I didn't want to go out with her. We went out,
Wow.
but I was stuck on somebody else, and that's one of the lines from the song too. Um,
Oh, I
it's
just took it on. Damn it. Sorry. I thought I was muted.
what's that?
Shit. I thought I was muted. I just coughed on not on mute.
It's okay, David. Go ahead. Pop up the other lung. It's fine.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Go on.
It's all good, So anyway, yeah.
This is
So I
free,
just
everyone.
Did you say it's free?
I said this is free, y'all. I'm not charging you
It's
to listen
free.
to it. I'll make a mistake.
You can edit it out.
Yeah, I could.
I'm gonna edit that out. Or I could do it too to make you feel better.
Do whatever you want. Sorry, I interrupted your story. Keep going. That was fascinating.
No,
So,
it's all
she's
good.
in bed. She talks a lot, going to bed.
She talks a lot.
Yeah.
She talks a lot. I talk a lot too, but when it's time to be quiet, I like to be quiet. She has no. There's no quiet filter button volume. So nothing. We're very different in that regard. But yeah, it was just really cool to write this song from her perspective, and it started with this really cool, like, on my keyboard I was playing a guitar. It's like dun, 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 dun. And it just went over and over and over in my head. I would just play that over and over and over. And then I don't even remember when the words started coming, but it was all, again, it's almost like she wrote the song in a way. So when I played it for the first time, I was like, do you recognize anything in there? Like your own damn words?
Oh, so it was a surprise. You didn't really tell her about this process.
No,
Wow.
I didn't tell her anything about it. I just go to the studios on Saturday and I leave. I take my keyboard. I come home, and that's it. I don't talk about it. She was like, "How was it today?" And I was like, "How was what?"
So how'd she receive the song?
They liked it. And she's not real big on. She won't go like, "Oh, that was so great! I can't believe you wrote that." She'll just like kind of let it mull around in her head. In that regard, we are similar. She's not.
Did you have like a newfound appreciation for yourself, or did you look at yourself in a different way after looking at yourself through her eyes? Or did you access all of that in order to write it beforehand, you know?
I think I already had it. I think I already had the new appreciation of myself, and that's how I was able to write the song from her. Because let's be honest, nobody's ever written me a love song. Ever. Nobody. Ever. So I was thinking about this the other day.
That you know of.
That I know of. You're right. That I know of. Nobody has ever presented.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this the other day. Almost every girlfriend, partner, or whatever I've ever had, couldn't sing. They sing off key to the top of their lungs, but they can't sing, can't dance. And I come from a dancing background. So it's like, I'm never going to get a love song out of these people. So I take the food. I take that food that's so lovingly prepared. That's a love song.
Hell yeah. That's one of the best love songs.
It is. It's delicious.
Damn.
That delicious love song. I got to write that down. That delicious love song.
Yeah, you could write a whole like book of just like I bet you guys could have a really dope collaboration if you just like wrote a poem to like a 5-course meal. That's an idea I got from a friend of mine. They had done that for a collaboration once.
Really?
With a chef. The chef's instructions were to come up with like a 5-course meal. And my friend, they're a poet, they had to come up with a poem to correspond with it.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. That'd be like y'all bringing in the best of the both of yourselves.
But let me tell you what, if I told my girlfriend that, you know what she would do? She would roll her eyes.
We'll start small. You don't got to do a 5-course meal. Like you just do a dessert. I think I had another question, but I forgot what it was going to be about that. Oh, yeah. So you said when you were writing that song, you had like the music come into your head. I mean, give us a sneak peek of what it's like in your head. Like for me, I only think of words. I only think of words and rhymes and syllables. I never think of music. So what is that like in addition to having the words coming to you? And how do you channel them or separate them too? You can't. I imagine you can't.
A lot of times, it just comes together. Very rarely now do I have any lyrics come to me that I don't hear some sort of rhythm or some sort of melody. It might not be the final melody. It might not be, like I'll work through it later, but like when it first is coming to me, that's when I grab my phone. I'll type it up so that I have the words somewhere. Like if I'm in the car, a lot I use my voice notes on my phone. Every once in a while, there's no melody, but there is a rhythm, and I can hear,
Wow.
what it's going to be like. I can already feel the groove a little bit. So just kind of comes, it's very difficult for me now to just write a poem. If somebody said just write a poem, I'd be like, it's going to be so hard.
Because you're going to have the music come with it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. I
I
can't
mean,
even
I
fathom
could,
that.
but it's just not like and then some days I don't have any words. I don't have anything. I just sit down at the keyboard and I just start playing. And with no objective really, just to sit down at the keyboard, because maybe I've gotten so focused with work that I haven't had an opportunity to be creative. So I just sit down and start, playing chords and maybe, whatever. And then things start to flow again. It's just a way to keep in touch. I don't necessarily have to write anything every time I sit down. Sometimes I just play the current stuff that I've been working on just to stay like, to me, it's a relationship. I am in a relationship with my songs. And if we don't talk for a while, I feel like we're not connected. So I have to talk to my songs.
Why did you decide to start with the happy song instead of the sad song for in releasing your singles?
It came from the guy that I work with at his studio. So he plays a lot of the instruments. I play keyboard, and I write the lyrics. I come up with the melody, harmonies, and things like that. But he plays bass, guitar, and drums, or we work on drums together. Like one song, we actually stole drums from another song, and then we kind of masked them. But it was just really cool because I was taking from this older song, and but anyway, so he plays a lot of instruments, and he's also, basically the engineer. And I say we're co-producing because he has ideas that I trust. We've developed a trusting working relationship. And it used to be that I wouldn't let anybody, not that I wouldn't let anybody say anything. I don't want to say that, but I was very protective of my songs. They're my songs, you know. They're my babies. I have a relationship with them. And now you want to come. This is not a threesome, okay? But I trust him a lot, and he's got good ideas, and he's worked with a lot of different people around Orange County, and people from Nashville send him stuff and ask for his help. And so I was playing that, and he's like, man, I really like that guitar riff that you're playing. And I had some things where it was going a completely different direction. And he was like, can we stop for a second? I was like, yeah. And he goes, I would not normally do this, but I think if you do this, it's going to be really cool. And basically what it was if you just repeat the same chords, like I was taking it and doing a chord change and like trying to be all I wasn't trying to be fancy, but I was just going somewhere different. And he said, I think this could be like a really, very like, not a top hit or anything like that, but I think this is a really good single if you do it this way. And it was hard for me to just stop midstream and change that song. But the way that it works now, to me, it's so catchy. And he even went through some examples. Like he said, let me show you, here's a Katy Perry song that does something similar. The song is nothing like Katy Perry. It's just, it follows a pattern. And that's what music is. It's a pattern, and sometimes the pattern's more complex and it only fits in this genre and only certain people want to listen to it. Like I tend to think that jazz is a very complex type of music and not everybody likes jazz, classical music, things like that. But this made it a little bit more pop, a little bit more mainstream. And so when he said, I think this could be a really good single, that's when I started putting a lot of focus into it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to release this one first. I like it.
Right on. I can't wait to hear it. So I have one final question for you, and then we can let people know where to find you and what you're up to. Um, unless there's any other thoughts you wanted to add to.
Well,
Follow
there's
up
a
on.
million thoughts,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily pertain to this.
Okay. So here's the question I'm trying to end every episode with.
Huh?
So assume that tomorrow morning when you wake up, you are going to forget everything you know about writing and making music. But tonight, before you go to bed, you can give yourself a post-it note of advice and wisdom from where you are today to help yourself get back to your craft and beyond, to where you are today and beyond.
So you're saying tomorrow I wake up and I've completely forgotten how to write a song and play piano and sing? Are we
Everything.
going to those
You,
depths?
yeah, you don't know how to write a poem. You don't know how to play a guitar. You don't know how
I
to
don't know how to
sing.
play guitar.
Okay, well, you don't know how to play the
I know
keyboard.
a
You're right.
couple. I know 3 chords.
Okay.
I can write a rock song with that. But yeah.
Well, you're gonna forget those. So, yeah, pretty much. So this is assuming that when you wake up, you want to commit to being an artist again, and so it's like, how do I get there? So yeah, it could be
Oh,
practical
yeah.
advice, it can be spiritual advice, it can be emotional, whatever.
Tough question, David.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm on this side.
I was going to say, do you have people like answered this pretty quickly, or do they
Both.
need
There's
some
been people that
time?
take a minute. There's some people who knew right away. It's been a
So
mixed
if I
bag.
was just going to go with my initial thought, like the
Hmm.
first thing that comes to me is just if I wake up tomorrow and I don't know how to do anything that I can do now, is just lead with your heart. And that's really cheesy to me to say that, but I believe that this was all ever um, stimulated, brought about by, propelled by my heart because I love music. And I know if I just say, okay, I got to feel what's in my heart, I'll get there again because that's what's driven me when it
Mm.
comes to my music is my love for it, my heart. It's like when I go into the recording studio, I'm at home. Like here, I can play music, but it's just me. When I go into the recording studio and I'm singing and I'm working with somebody else and we are creating this thing together that can last for decades to come, I'm at home.
Mm.
So I know that if I just remember like that my heart is at home when it's making music, that's all I need. That's all I need tomorrow morning when I wake up and forget everything.
Yeah,
If I wake
everything.
up tomorrow morning, I'm going to write a note. If I wake up tomorrow morning and I've forgotten everything, it's David's fault.
I'm getting that as a tattoo.
First me.
That'll be insane if that actually happened.
Like Freaky Friday, the switching of the body.
Yeah. Well, I think showing you this episode might help you.
Oh, yeah. Show me this episode.
Yeah.
So I can really have proof that it was your fault. Good thing I've been
Oh,
recording this on my end too. I'm just kidding.
sneaky. Oh, I love that answer. Thank you. Yeah, so you mentioned that you might have an EP, you got singles coming out. Where can people find you and keep in touch with what you're doing?
So I'm on Instagram. I share some stuff on there. Amber Jeanseau Music, and I guess you're going to have a little bio on each episode, right?
Yeah, I'll have it
I
in the
can
show
put
notes.
that out there. I just started doing TikTok. I've been so TikTok averse. And then I'm like, I don't know. So my idea is I'm going to sit down with my, turn on the camera on my phone and play some stuff and like, play that little guitar riff and be like, this is where it all started, just to kind of share almost like, what was that show? What was the show? Was it MTV or VH1 Behind the Music? Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I remember that.
Behind the
Yeah,
music for each of my songs.
people love seeing the processes, is what I'm
Yeah.
being told.
So I think I'll do that on TikTok. So I'm on TikTok as Amber Johnson Music. And then when I start to release, I'll be releasing on iTunes, Spotify, whatever else is out there. Just as far as digital platforms, I have a DistroKid platform. You can put everything up there. You can choose where you want to distribute it. So, and I guess YouTube everywhere.
Can we expect a music video?
I actually have been talking to a guy. He's in my alum group from USC, and he has a media group. And I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, do you do music videos?" He's like, "Yeah, I've done a few." And then I also said, "And do you guys do animation?" Because for this song, it's called the one that I'm releasing next month is called "Drove Past Your House," and I was trying to think, wouldn't it be cute if it's like some of it's live and some of it's cartoonish, and you've got this, little blonde driving, because my girlfriend did that. She would drive through the neighborhood to see if I was home. She was stalking me.
I was like, wait, what are we talking about?
The song is like, it's fun and happy and upbeat. But it's a stalker song. So I was like, wouldn't it be funny if we had a little cartoon car driving past the house, like looking to like, is she home?
With binoculars and
the whole thing.
Well, it would be cool if like the animated was, I know the point of the song is to be from her perspective, but it would be cool if like the animated was an interjection of your perspective or something.
Yeah. So it's just, I've been, kind of trying to map it out in my head, but all my extra time is going into just working on the songs. And I've always tried to be like, oh, I can do this. I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. I don't want to be a music video producer. Yeah. I don't want to be that. I want somebody else to do it. I have the ideas. I want to share it with somebody, share the vision, and then have them do it. But I feel like that's going to come later. But yeah, it's definitely on my mind.
Hell yeah. I might have to get that contact info. I think it'd be cool to see if it's going to be an animation to one of my poems one of these days.
I think it would be really cool to have animation with the whole chrysalis and the butterfly and all of that.
Oh, I shared this on the last episode I recorded with a friend. But I'll tell it about you here. I recently, so most of this year, I feel like I haven't had the muse. I feel like a lot of my writing hasn't been super inspired, but I'm proud that I've like pushed through and I'm writing more than ever. But earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, I felt like the muse had come back because it felt like nothing was coming from like I could feel my hand just moving without me doing anything. And I wrote from a perspective from three perspectives. The first, there's three stanzas and each a different perspective. And the first stanza was from the perspective of a butterfly. The second stanza was from my perspective. And the third one was from the perspective of the trees. And I ended up, whatever end words I used for the first stanza, I forced myself to use the same ones in that order for the next two. So it's like I'm talking about all of the same things, but just through a little bit of a different lens. And I really need to flesh it out, but that would make a dope animated video or something for sure.
Yeah. I'm kind of seeing it. Not that it's mine, but I like you just telling me that. I'm like almost like it's being drawn and animated at the same time as you're speaking it. Like that, like all of it's moving, like the actual, not like those cheesy drawings, like the marketing videos on YouTube.
Yeah. Not like those,
but just
or like them?
Not like those. Okay. No. But yeah, like just like a whole progression of the artist drawing them, and as the stanzas developing. I don't know. It's your poem.
It could even be a children's book.
It's just what. Yeah. No, seriously. I think that there's a need for some really great children's books out there. I think not Dr. Seuss, but
all right, we're going off a little here, but
I digress.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Awesome. I was so happy that you asked me. I have been looking forward to this. This was really fun.
Yeah, I know I probably brought this up to you first over a year ago, but here we are. Shit happens.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Anything that's worth doing is worth doing if you're going to do it right.
And I'm trying to do it right. Exactly.
Yeah. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for stopping by. Thank you for hanging out with us today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If you enjoyed hearing from Amber and want to check out her music, you can find her on Instagram at Amber Jeanseau Music. That's Amber, Amber, JeanSeau Music. Amber Jeanseau Music. And thank you again for tuning in to this episode of the Art to Heart podcast. Please consider leaving a rating or review. Tag me on Instagram, send me a DM, leave me a voicemail at www.art2heart.life. That's art2heart with the number 2.life. And let me know how you're liking these conversations. If you have feedback, tips, constructive criticism, I'm all ears. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.